So since we're going to be electing a chair and secretary, am I filling in until we do that?
So you do that.
Until we do that? Okay. All right. So then I'm declaring the meeting open. Our first order of business is to swear in the board members. Do you provide the oath for us?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
So commissioners, good evening. I'll ask each of you to stand. And because we do have virtual participation tonight, we'll be going around the room. We'll start with Commissioner Jacob. You'll say aye and your name so you're identified, and then I'll administer the balance of the oath. For this particular committee, the legal makeup includes the auditor treasurer, Sandra. Okay, aye.
Aye, Steve Jacob.
Aye.
Hi, Chris Meyer.
Hi, Marie Kavesi.
I, Marcia Ward. I, Sandra Sukla.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and I will perform the duties
and I will perform the duties
of the Board of Appeal and Equalization
of the Board of Appeal and Equalization
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You're sworn in.
Thank
We'll
you.
have each of you sign the oath that you just took, and that'll be part of our official record. And I want to wish you the very best. And I also would like to add a comment that I have worked with several assessors at Winona County, and I think the report that you're receiving tonight is just outstanding in all respects. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the second order of business is to elect a meeting chair and secretary.
You want me to sign here?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Steve Jacob to chair this meeting.
Second. Are there any other nominations? I have to ask 3 times. Are there any other nominations? And are there any other nominations? Steve Jacob has been nominated for Chair of the Board of Equalization certification, and we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Jacob as Chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, congratulations, Commissioner Jacob. Do you take over now to nominate the vice chair?
Yeah. Thanks.
I
That
believe
would
so.
be good.
I can switch places with.
I'll give him the gavel.
I can just do it from right here.
Sure. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
I
So it
found it, but I
doesn't say anything
couldn't open
about
it.
vice chair, so we'd move on to
It's not
secretary.
on the website or anything like that.
Is there any nominations for secretary?
I would nominate Commissioner Kavesi.
Second.
Okay, I have a nomination and a second for Commissioner Kavesi. Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? If not, we'll close the nominations and we'll vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Kavesi as the secretary, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, item 3, property owners appeals.
Well, good evening, commissioners. Well, first off, we were supposed to have 4. We originally had 4 coming tonight, and then 1 canceled on Friday and 1 canceled yesterday. And the first one's supposed to be here at 6:45, so wait another 10 more minutes, I guess. The other person was supposed to be scheduled at 7:15, but we told them there might be someone's going to cancel, so please get here at 7 at the very latest. So we'll see if they show up. See if that's possible. So in the meantime, I guess we can just give you my report in the meantime until.
Sure, let's move on to item 4, then we'll review the assessor's 2022 report.
No one out there? All good. Well, first off, thank you all you guys for having Steve Hacken come back to help me out. He was such a treasure for this whole county here, and then just to help me out, show me how to be a county assessor, because there's not really a good handbook to do that. So thank you very much for approving his contract to be here for these last 9 months. Basically his job was, this is what you need to look at. This is what the stats you need to look at, and this is what you need to do. And that's what he showed. And obviously I know you all respected him, and he did a great job showing me what to do, how to look at the stats, how to change values, how to put values for the next year. So it's, like I said, there's not a really good handbook for that. And he was incredibly helpful for me. And he's also still helpful currently right now. He's helping out a couple of counties on their tax court stuff. So some of the attorneys, I thought they were done with them. No, you're still not. So, but he does a very good job at that. And so, like I said, he's very, very respected around the state. So, like I said, there's a couple of counties up north he's been helping out that's how well known he is throughout the state. So once again, thank you for having proven the contract. And speaking of him, then this won't be until next year, but back in February, you guys passed a new, we have to have a new valuation tax system by the end of next year. And we pretty much ran out of options. This was supposed to be done a number of years ago. And this company that we were supposed to do it, unfortunately, couldn't fulfill it. So we had no choice. We're going with Tyler Technologies. A lot of counties around the state are going with them. So it'll be sometime next year, but I'm hoping sometime next year, Mr. Hackins might try to bring him back to help with the conversion, because he was the one that built the valuation system we have now. So he'd be a great benefit to tell the company, this is how I did it. This is how you should transfer over, convert everything to our new system. So just give you a heads up, but that's not going to be till probably not till April or May of next year. But so that's kind of that's what you guys approved up back in February. So thank you once again for doing that. And then valuation wise, one last thing, we're gonna have a couple of changes in our office. Perry Knopic at the end of this month is retiring. He's been been working here 30 years, about 30 years. So he is, we're all shedding tears because he was not only fun to work with, but he was good at what he did. He was always good talking with taxpayers, and we're going to miss him. So if you see him these next 10 days, it's June 30th is his last day. If you happen to be around, you happen to see him, so wish him a happy retirement. So pretty much what we did for valuation wise, farmland, we went up 10% countywide. That seemed to be kind of the norm through most of the region in this area. The non-tillable, the woods especially, that hunting market has really exploded. We were at 3,100 last year. We went to 4,000 this year. And I talked to someone from Whitetail Properties, and I had to pick his brain on something. And I just told him what I did for a living. And I asked, what wood should be going for in this area. And he said, if you're not getting $4,000, there's something wrong then. So it sounds like $4,000 is what hunting land is going for right now. So that's why we have it there. And definitely, obviously some big increases on that. So people that we talk to, especially if their land is non-homestead, we told them you could always apply for their best option is to apply for the 2C program. So if your woods land is non-homestead, you can apply with the DNR wood. I can't remember at the top of my head what it's called. It's called the 2C wood program, but you work with the DNR and it takes your taxes down about a third. So we tell people with woodland, especially if it's non-homestead, because if it's homestead, you don't get a benefit. If it's non-homestead, the 2C program is your best bet. So we let taxpayers know that obviously you're going to see the big increase. This might be your best bet to help you with your taxes.
Is the DNR lower rate than
It's not
just owning it and living there and not really using it?
It's not the lower. It's the class rate, because woods if you're non-homestead for woods, you get a 1% class rate. Because if your woods was homestead, so especially for farmers, if you have enough farmland, but you also have woods, instead of being taxed at the 1% class rate, it's the 0.5% class rate. So, but if you're not homestead for woods, you're automatically at 1% class rate. So the option we're just telling these people, if you can apply for talk with the DNR, and the plan's good for 10 years. So you overall will save money in the long term. So that's kind of options that we're giving them. Houses, this is the most that we've ever raised on houses since I've been here since 2008. Our base rate went from $128 a square foot to $147 a square foot. it said 12% on there, but it was really more closer to 14% increase. Just sales just really showed it in that sheet I had, and actually in your packet here shows you what the pre-adjusted ratio was, and then what the ratio we had to move it to. You know, we never had so many ratios in the 80s. A lot of 80s in there. From Altura's was in the 70s. Resback I know was in the 70s. And then unfortunately Wilson was the worst. They had 13 sales in Wilson, and the ratio was at a 69. So we pretty much had to raise them about 33%, just to make sure that median ratio gets over 90. Because last thing we want is have to do a state board increase. There is one thing you'll see on there, and when we get to the assessor's consent change, I did make one rookie mistake that I will hopefully never do again. In the city of Stockton, you'll see that the ratio there is it starts off at an 84.4, and then it goes to just an 85.8. So what I did was when Steve was showing me how to transfer values, so he showed me how to do it, and I was transferring values, then double checking my work. And apparently I didn't check Stockton well enough, and I did not raise the building values. So they only their land went up, but not their buildings. And so at the moment, the state is requiring a state board increase, unless if tonight you guys will approve. You'll approve like it's a packet of this big. You don't have to read through the whole thing, all the values that need to go up. But basically, I just need you to approve that tonight for the values to be over that 90 ratio then, because where it should have been to begin with. Because the problem is if the state board approves if we don't approve it, then the state board will make me go up 5%, and all the changes that we made for the taxpayers, we have to turn back. They can't be appealed. So that's why. So we'll get to that point when we do the consent changes. Commercial wise, we only had 22 sales. Most of them were in the city of Winona, and there was a lot of just weird stuff that sold. So our city of Winona ratio was at a 92. Everything else it was just a lot of weird stuff that sold this past year. It didn't really tell us what's been selling well, what's not. So we did not do a whole lot of changes to commercial properties. As you see there, the egg properties went from, our ratio was at 85, then raised it to a 95. And then the rural vacant land was at a 70, just under a 78. And then obviously making sure that we got over the 90 ratio, we got it to 98.31. And so far for egg land and rural vacant land for the next year, it seems very mixed. I can't, if there's going to be any changes, I don't think it's going to go up much. And it might go down a little bit. I don't know, but I'm not anticipating any huge changes hopefully next year, and possibly in egg land, but we'll see. We'll see how many sales come in. Yeah, we still have about 4 months left in our sales period. Any questions so far on these residential sales especially, or?
Go back to what you said about the city of Stockton. Okay,
Yep.
you made an error, but so we need to get that ratio up to in the 90s. Is that what you said?
Yes, I'll show you the packet.
But you said something we raise them, but we have to give it back to them. I didn't understand that.
I'm sorry. All right. So because of the mistake I made, right now the state board is ordering an increase. Unless tonight we approve that the changes, I have the packet over here, but packet that shows like the changes that are made for next year. And what happened was after I made the mistake, we sent letters to all the property owners that were affected by this, telling this is what your actual value should have been. I should have been more specific, but showing them what the values should have been to begin with.
Which would have been higher.
Higher, yes,
Okay.
correct. And that ratio then would have made it over 90. And then and we also told them to, because you're an open book, since Stockton's an open book, you have basically till June 10th to appeal. So if you got any questions, give us a call. And we got some people were confused, but they understood when we explained what happened.
So you're asking us later in the meeting to agree to raise them to what you sent them letters to?
Yes, yes.
And you were explaining to us that if you didn't, then there's a set of stuff that the state would do instead.
The state will make me do a 5% increase. And like there was a couple of property owners that we changed their values. I got to put them back to normal then. Then they don't get to whatever change I did for them, any appeals, they don't, we have to put them back to normal. Well, like I said, when that time comes, we'll get there. Tax court, So pretty active this past year. I know I sent you all emails about that. Badger, we've settled, Hal Leonard, Fleet Farm, we just settled Menards a couple of months ago. So we don't have a whole lot at the moment. The big one is Walmart. We still have Mark Mandershai law firm representing us on that. We won the state Supreme Court case back in August. And basically what that meant was that that state law is very clear. You can only sue us in tax court. You can't take us to district court, which was that's what the other attorneys were trying to do. And unfortunately, it took it to state Supreme Court to solve this issue. But at the moment, Mark Mandershai is still just going to represent us on Walmart. I'm not sure. I have not talked to anyone from Walmart yet. I know they settled cases in Martin County, one of the counties up north. I know in Anoka County they settled as well. But at the moment, they haven't talked to us. And what Mark Mandershai told me was, if they haven't talked to me yet, that means we're probably low on the totem pole with them. So at the moment, there's no one. So nothing on Walmart. Shopko, it's just for 1 year from pay 20. It was after it got foreclosed, and the person was still able to do a tax appeal on that. And then so we're still working with them on that. And then Edina Realty's, they're suing us for last year and now this year as well. So no word on that. What's going on there at the moment. So right now, at least the tax court wise, we're kind of quiet at the moment there.
Like an Edina Realty, what's the difference that they feel that they should be taxed at, and what have we got them on? What are we talking as far as the range?
I haven't talked to them yet. I talked to the lawyer for maybe 2 minutes one day, and we haven't really scheduled a meeting yet.
But by statute and everything, does it have to be a certain percentage or something before they can take us to tax court, or can it be $1 more than they want to get?
No, it's whatever we settle with them is if they want to take us to tax court. Actually, I think thanks for reminding me on this. I did take a fall seminar class on tax court, and they actually had 3 judges that do tax court, and they give us their advice to us. And one thing they said, and this was kind of disheartening a little bit, they said, if you have a chance to settle. Do not, if we find out that you could have settled for peanuts, we're not going to be happy with you. We really want to settle. We really want these things to go to court are the ones that really high impact dollars. Like especially if both sides aren't coming close to an agreement. But if you have a close agreement, they want you to settle. So it kind of wish they wouldn't say that.
So who are the judges? Who signs the judge's paycheck? The taxpayer or the business? Well, the business does because they're the taxpayer. But who are they representing? I mean, if they're telling you as a county employee to settle.
I agree. It was their advice. They said you don't have to, but it's that was what that's what they suggest. If it's, and that's why some of these that we settled last year, it would have cost us more to go to trial. So trying to look at the county's money. But that's what, so like I said, I wish the judge would look at it differently, but they understand too. These judges are much more smarter now. They know that some of these appraisals that they come in that are lowballing things and using foreclosed sales and stuff, they kind of know the other side's game too. So I think they're a little bit more smarter than they were, not smart, educated more than like they were like 15, 20 years ago.
So what's holding up the Shopko settlement? Because that property's been sold since then.
These things kind of take some time. At the moment, technically, they're supposed to go to court sometime next year. I did talk to the attorney a couple of months ago. It was just a meet and greet and see what you think, and then possibly this summer I'm going to try to talk to him again because I know sometime in the fall I have to have some things ready for the court. But we're trying to avoid. Obviously, I don't think an appraisal will be necessary on this one, but basically just talk to the guy and see what we just go from there. And then county valuation summary. So big thing is the new construction did pretty well last year. About 59 million in new construction. Winona was the big one, 38 million there. About 16 million is probably from the Fastenal building. Then the main square apartments too, that was probably close to another 10 million there. And then TRW, they just had a big warehouse way on the east end by Peerless Chain that they just built as well. So that's so we had some pretty good tax base all around. And then houses wise, we had 57 new houses, which, considering how expensive lumber was this past year, that's actually that was pretty good, I thought. And then finally, then like obviously with all these increases here, I guess the question is what's going to be the impact on taxes next year? And obviously, I think you know already that they didn't pass a tax bill. The legislature didn't pass a tax bill, so unfortunately, the jail there can't go on referendum. I've been checking daily to see if there's been any updates, if there's going to be a special session, and it's not looking likely. So unfortunately, there probably will be some increases in taxes next year. But also too, the tax bill included readjusting the homestead credit, the homestead exclusion actually. 76,000 was where you get the maximum amount of homestead, and 76,000 these days for a house is nothing. So they were going to raise that to 95,000 that's your maximum benefit. And then 517 was going to be the maximum where your exclusion ends. And unfortunately that's staying the same at the moment. And then for farmers, they were going to raise the A tier from 1.9 million to 2.5 million. And unfortunately that was in the tax bill as well. So that didn't get passed either. So it was more than just the referendum. It was all state round. There were some things in there that probably need to be readjusted. Like I said, the homestead exclusion, that's been 76,000 since I've been here. So it was time to finally maybe do something about it. But unfortunately, no tax bill. There's kind of stuck at the moment there. So I would definitely imagine residentials are going to be definitely seeing increases in taxes. But, Commissioner Jacob, Commissioner Ward, I mean, you remember when farmland went up, tillable land went up like 45% about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I noticed like the following year, I remember seeing like definitely the tax base shifted onto the farmers at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this time around, I think houses are going to be expecting the shift for next year, especially.
Yeah, farmland could be seeing an increase coming up again too, so.
Yep. So any questions?
So do you want us to move on to the acting on the assessor's consent change next, or do you want to go back and pick up our property owners' appeals?
Mr. Chakowski?
I'm here.
Yep, we'll just
Well, I know a lot of you guys. My name is Mike Chikanowski. I live in Homer Township, right by the Black Horse. That valley's my valley right behind the Black Horse. So I checked the other
Go ahead
night.
and state your address too for the record.
34657 Old Homer Road is
Okay.
where I live. The piece I'm appealing today is my river guest house down by the sand pile. And I keep on forgetting that fire number, so I didn't even look it up, but I have the tax code number on it. But, a couple of reasons I'm here, it's an issue of fairness on that piece. I've been in business for 55 years, started building canoes out of high school. I looked it up the other day. I pay over $99,000 in real estate tax, with my properties. That particular piece sits, right next to the sand pile. I've never stayed overnight there. I use it for river portal. I paddle 3, 4, 5 days a week. I have guests from all over the world come stay there. The sand pile is an issue. Last year they raised the assessment 65,000 on it. 2 years ago, from 2 years ago to now, it's up 196,000. That's 44%. That's just kind of a crazy number. I guess last year they got it pegged at $640,000. Now, you would never find a comparable property sale close to a sand hill like that. That's just impossible. Last year the Army Corps took out 80,000 yards of sand up County 15. That's 5,300 trucks up and down. That's 10,000 trucks round trip. That was 2 months. It hurt the road. It got rid of the sand. And so for the last 2 solid months, they've been putting sand back on it. And so they probably have every bit of 60 to 70,000 yards of sand back on. Now, I'm not really opposed to the sand pile per se. I'm opposed to their insistence that they want to expand it twice. They want to buy the next piece that's right downriver of them, and they want to double the size of it. And the neighbors are, want it to go away. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I do think we could stop the expansion of that pile. The sand pile does have economic consequences, and I'm one of them. My house is 100 feet away. Between loading, unloading, nonstop, it's almost comical sometimes, the amount of traffic and noise down there. Now, when Hemker had it, it was a very orderly unload. He would always have railroad crossing guards. The railroad insisted on that. It would happen in, predictable times. He'd get it off of there. He'd never work on the weekends. It was different than it is now. The Army Corps is letting people come all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week. I asked them to put some kind of controls on it, and they just don't want to do that. It's become a burden on the neighborhood, not just me, but everybody else around there. So, so I guess what I'm asking for is, well, I'd be happy to go back 2 years. That's $196,000 ago. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a comparable sale in that exact location like that. I mean, I just don't see that happening right now. I have no idea where it's going to go. They want to put crossing guards there. They want to do all sorts of things, but nothing has happened. But they do. The Corps is doing tomorrow night at the History Center. They want to show their next 20-year plan. I've been on a port authority for probably 30 years, and we have other spots for the sand. We have a good spot in the West End where they can take almost an unlimited amount. We have 2 other Winona sites that we're working with them, but they still insist upon keeping this in the plan. And I've told them that I won't support the other plan, which was almost all my idea, if they keep this in the plan. I don't know where that's going to go. I would
Mike, I
wish,
have a quick housekeeping piece here. We have
okay.
apparently, I'm not aware that we had a 2-minute time limit on this,
Well-
but they put a 2-minute timer up. And I just want to make sure it's okay with the rest of the board that we allow you whatever time
Yeah, well,
the members are.
I'm here to appeal the taxes and
Yep.
to show that the pile has tax consequences. I mean, is that property worth $650,000? I don't think so. That John was nice enough to send out the appraisers, and we came out one day, it was a few weeks ago, and oddly enough, we couldn't go in and see the property because the train was there, so we waited 20 minutes and decided to go. So they did call and say they're going to knock it down some thousands. I forget the exact amount, but
Want to give you the
yeah, what was it?
So it was at 640,700, and then we lowered it because of the outside influence. It wasn't because of the house itself, but because of the outside influence because of the trucks and everything. That's much the trains, because that whole line down there has trains. So we went from 640,700 to 597,400 for page 23.
That's still 20,000 more than it was the year before. Yes. The year before it was 575.
And I would agree, there's not going to find a comparable. Typically, anything on the river sells, we're either right on the money or we're low. So it's.
Is it considered buildable?
Well, I have a house on it.
Yeah, there's a house.
Okay, there is a house on it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cabin. It's a summer house. So, well, I mean, that's the issue. I mean, it's becoming a particularly busy site. I mean, the Corps thinks that sand's going to go away by itself, and I'll guarantee you they'll be hauling up County 15 again this fall. They won't get rid of the 80 or 90,000 yards by themselves. You won't keep County 15 in one piece if they do that every year. It just ain't going to happen. So. And putting the sand up there, they spent $1 million putting that sand up there last year. I mean, it's not like they spend money when they want to spend money, let me tell you. So, the neighboring property isn't for sale right now. It will be sooner or later, I'm sure. Alice is getting old and Pam's got,
Is that Leo Smith?
no, I'm downriver, Grover, Alice Grover.
Oh, sure.
I think it's in her daughter's name now, but when Alice passes and she's getting to be very, very old, I mean, you would think that some properties will be for sale. If you want to take a quick peek, here's pass the pictures around. This is the piece that they want to buy. This is their site now. The one thing about having that site there with the trees, it really, really hides the sand pile from the river. I mean, it really shades it, it completely hides it. If all those trees are gone, and that's what they'll do, they have to mitigate this too. They have to go in and mitigate it, and it'll cost them a couple $100,000. We have areas in the west end of town that they don't want to mitigate because it's not their property, but they could put sand there for the next 20 years, but they don't want to mitigate them. So, I mean, it's really, they're being just stubborn on this deal is what they're doing. But, it's an interesting dilemma. I'm not opposed to dredging. I think the river needs to be dredged. I'm not opposed to the Army Corps. I mean, we have the 3rd largest port in the state right now. Of course, Duluth is biggest. There's one in St. Paul bigger, but we're the third by tonnage. 300 barges. There's a lot of barges go through there. It really is. So I like the river. The river is important. We don't need to make that sand pile any bigger. I keep on telling them the solution to the sand is barge to truck, truck to final destination. That's the solution. It's not making piles everywhere. They got a pile at Dick's Marine that's pretty good size. We let them use a pile east in Winona for beneficial use. We're going to move it, but we're going to let them do that. Then we're going to let them unload on a lot that the port owns right next to the Marine Museum. And then we have, in short distances, a lot of places that they can haul sand. One place, if they'd mitigate, they could haul sand for 20 years and they wouldn't fill it up. So that's the piece right next to Pelzer Street that Fastenal bought a few years ago. So, I mean, there's places for it besides the Homer pile. And I tell you what, the Homer pile in the last 2 months went from small to very, very large. It's getting bigger every day. Yeah. They're probably in the air 30 feet right now with it. And once again, the pile isn't the issue here really. It's the congestion of the trucks.
There was probably a dozen pickup trucks and everything still there when I
Well,
came by after 6.
And it's they run, they dig 6 to 6, 5 days a week is what they're running right now. But you can unload sand at any time you want. And there's 4 or 5 good sized front end loaders unloading sand, A great deal of it was used on the Homer Road expansion, but it's a shovelful compared to what that pile is. That sand won't go away by itself. They'll haul up another 1 million yards here or $1 million worth of sand here this fall.
So Mike, so if John dropped it to 597,400, what did you say 2 years ago? What was the
Well, 2
value?
years ago it was, I looked it up here, 2 years ago it was 444,000.
440?
Yeah, 4,000. Probably changed, but I got 2020. Yeah, it's going up
That was
196,000. Yeah, 2020. So I look at my records at 444,000. Can you see that, John? Is that-
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
I know for this year, for taxes paid this year, it's
Oh, that
575.
2019.
Yeah.
2019 was 444. 2020, it jumped up to 532.
All right. Well, yeah. So you got to catch those years just
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and then 575 and then 640. Well, I definitely agree. The Corps has devalued all of Homer because they're changing the lay of the community, definitely.
They are. Yeah. I mean, they got my homestead where I live. I've got between that and 80 acres of property, they got me at $1 million. And I don't want to contest. I contest that today, but that's not today's issue. I don't think you'll sell a property, a house in the county for $1 million.
So, Mike, I'm certainly hearing your frustrations about the sand issue, but that's really a separate issue.
It is.
What
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
here
yeah,
tonight
yeah.
is
I
to
know.
deal with the valuation.
Right.
Um,
Well, I'd be happy to
And-
go back
and-
2 years, 444. Yeah.
And we've had that conditional use permit before us on the sand pile at Homer. And ultimately, legal told us that we really didn't have authority over it. And so.
You don't have
and-
authority, but the county could write a letter saying that they don't endorse the expansion of the pile. I don't think that'd be
I think we made that clear to them.
well, make it
Yeah,
clear
but-
again, because that's not what they believe right now.
I have a question. Didn't Mr. Stanton come to the county board looking for a conditional use permit to build something down in that neighborhood on the river? And it was.
I don't remember his
tabled?
name, but yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
And that was tabled, correct?
I think they're still working with the DNR on that.
Yeah, I mean, so it didn't totally, but wasn't that right in that neighborhood?
That
Just
was,
up,
that was probably more in Richmond Town. That was more in Richmond Township.
was it further down?
Yeah, kind of
than-
more past the dam.
Okay, well, and so I've been around long enough that when Mr. Hemker was alive, he did use it for dredge materials and he did want to build a house
Well,
there at one time.
He
And we
did.
denied it.
Yeah, he was
And-
done with the sand. He had too much neighbor. He was going to shut her down.
Yeah,
So he was.
he
yeah,
was trying
yeah,
to build
yeah,
something on there and stuff, but the
It's
Corps.
probably, it was plotted out at one time. So I don't know if those plots went away or not, but I don't know. There was no access to it before he bought it. And he sued the railroad to get access to it.
Well, at this point, we're not on the point of the agenda where we're going to act on this, so we need to hear everything you have to say, and then it's just a short while later, we're gonna be acting on.
Yeah, I understand how it works. So, I wanted to, I thought that piece was
Yep.
overvalued because of the sand pile, and I'm hoping in another venue that the county makes it clear that, they just are opposed to that expansion. We need to haul sand, we need to dig sand,
Mhm.
but we don't need to double the size of that pile or in that spot. It's a dangerous place on the road. You just don't need to. So, okay, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for coming.
So,
Thank you.
We'll be acting on it here shortly.
All right,
so.
thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
So were we done with number 4, John? And then moving on to acting on the consent change list? Or are we
Yes.
not there yet?
We have another party waiting.
She was supposed to be here at 6:45.
Is there anybody out there? I'll go check. Waiting. No, okay.
Well, then we'll just keep moving on with our meeting. If they show up before we get to the item 6, we'll let them speak. So,
Let's see, this is just the recommended changes.
Thank you.
So the first one, that's the WADA commercial district out in Wilson Township. So what happened, well, we had the wrong land code on there. So we, and I even showed it to Steve because I didn't think it was supposed to be that high. And he said, yeah, there was a mistake. It should have been, we used I think it was like 31,000 an acre. And it should have been like 12,000 an acre.
I'm on the board, so I actually need to get a copy of that as well.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So the 18, 100, 10, 20, 30, and 40, and 50. So that's my recommendation to change to the other numbers all the way to the right. And then the other one, this one's in the Utica Township, Joan Dulick. It was just a minor thing. There was something in her pole building that we didn't have correct on there. And so it dropped the value 3,700. Not a big change, but just to make sure it's all correct. So that's the other change. And then the one I told you about for Stockton, this is the packet. So these are all just the values that are on here. The building values. It's basically what's going up is the building values, making sure that's all correct.
and so I haven't seen that, right?
That's this right here. You can,
But I wouldn't, it's not in the
it
packet.
won't be in the packet, no, because
Okay.
there's so many on here. I didn't want to see it.
I do, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to,
I have some questions on.
I wouldn't want to vote on something that I haven't even looked at.
Questions on WADA. Did these just jump up this? Was the air just this year? I mean, what was the values in 2022? Was it closer to the 6433?
It just got replatted.
Okay.
So what, I can't remember. Yes, Harry, it just got replatted.
They submitted a plat late last year and then again, just within the last few weeks.
Yeah, the second one's different, but this one that we're dealing with tonight, they were still, they had it replatted and then we changed the value on it. But like I said, it went to 31,000. So no, so this year they're still paying on the lower value.
This is Wilson Township. This is, looks like it would have huge impacts in Wilson Township when you drop this amount to those lower amounts. Are they well aware that?
Yeah, yes, they're aware. I sent Leon, I sent him an email about this and he understands. In the end, we had the wrong value on here. This wasn't supposed to have been 31,000 an acre. It should have been 12,000 an acre.
And just to clarify, they never paid the tax at the higher rate.
Correct.
You caught
Yes,
it before
correct.
that.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yes, because it's not going to impact any.
Okay, because one of the township officers indicated they had a lot of people show up at their, truth and taxation.
It
Was
wasn't,
it-
yes.
Was it this issue?
He was there. Yes, Willie was there. So
Okay.
I told him after the meeting, let's review it.
Okay.
And yes, and that was discovered that yes, we had the wrong land code on there.
It's just it was. As
Yeah, they didn't.
said, they never paid taxes on the higher amount.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Is this final 12.26, is that the average or is that just another? Because it seems like 12.26 would probably be about the average, huh?
That would be, yes, that would, yes.
All right. That's what I need.
Okay.
You want to see it?
I think maybe we pass the
Yeah,
pass it around here.
Yeah, Commissioner Jacob, we should all. Okay. So going back to the WADA though, wasn't that just open, didn't they rent it out for cropland?
Yes,
And now it's platted,
it's platted, so it gets valued different,
different?
but it's they still get taxed as farmland, but it gets valued different because of the change of use that they replatted it.
Okay.
And it's being used for that for farm purposes. So he does get taxed as that, but it gets valued different because now they changed the potential use. Like they opened up the new possibilities for it.
And no surprises to the people in Stockton here. They understand what's,
They all got a letter, all the ones that were affected, because they got their original tax notice. And then we had to resend a new letter out to them explaining this is what your actual value should have been.
Okay.
And definitely we told them, give us a call if you have any concerns.
And on this list, Joan Dulick, is this just a residence or is this a farm?
It's a farm.
It is a farm.
I'm just going to give a little bit of time for the full
Yep.
board to
Yep,
review it.
Just as a side comment, you're almost a conflict in my mind, John. And your data shows everything's going up and up and up. And I listen to the national news and all the problems that our country's in and that we may be in for a huge economic recession. So you're just a conflict in my,
I know it. First, I got to follow what the data says, at least in this county.
yeah.
And then, no, we definitely, it does play in my mind what's going on in the national world too. I know, like I was reading something about, Target, Walmart, they're actually struggling now making profits.
Yeah.
So if they're struggling, that, it's getting tough out there.
Yes. Mhm.
So that does play in my mind a little bit, but first I got to follow the sales and then all the other things that's going around. It could play a little bit of a factor.
Well, and I listen to local. So the school district is looking at doing some major bonding. The city is looking at doing some major bonding. I mean, how many taxes can our citizens keep paying? I mean, they're not small projects either. And then we got the $28 million jail that they've got to pay for.
Although the city thinks they're going to get federal infrastructure money and then state bonding,
Yeah.
which you're right, the taxes go up, but it isn't supposed to come out of our levy, or at least
Yeah,
what's
local. It's still taxpayer money they're spending, but it's not. Yeah.
One thing to add for next year, especially when you're talking to your constituents, let them know to apply for the Minnesota property tax refund. So there's always millions of dollars, I was told, every year that goes unclaimed because they just don't think about applying for it. So especially for next year, most likely taxes are going up. Definitely tell them to apply for that Minnesota property tax refund. It's something around the line of, if you make like 120,000 or less, you should be able to qualify. And it's a state-run program. If you Google it on there, like Minnesota property tax refund, it'll take you up. First thing that pops up should take you right to it.
So it's based off of your income?
Income and what your property taxes are.
Because isn't there something if you're a senior citizen or something and your property goes up X%, is that the same thing or
Is
that another program?
It's similar. It's another program. I'm not,
Okay.
that might be more of, they talk to their tax accountant if they have one. Let's Sandra, if you're aware.
I would not suggest people tie into the senior tax deferral program. I personally feel it's prohibitive.
What is that? Is that a state program or is
It
that one
is.
of these reverse mortgage types of things?
It kind of smells like a reverse mortgage when I read about it, so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But, Tom Selleck, he's trust me. I trust Tom. He's always telling me how to
Not
do
anymore.
that. I know. I
We
said,
won't
why?
take your house.
Why?
he says.
Yeah. Why do these people get in? Even,
That's my brother's joke. It's got to be true. It was on television. So,
Yeah. yeah, there's a lot of things that they're trying to get people.
We might want to remind people to apply for the property tax refund by putting a link on the website.
That would be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially because years ago, the state used to send us boxes full of brochures and pamphlets to assist taxpayers with that, and they have since cut us off cold turkey. So really, the only way to get information on that is through the internet.
Minnesota property tax.
Do the libraries get any information? Do you know? That would be, I could check, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't.
They do have walls of brochures.
Sometimes, yeah, that might be a good call too. So.
Commissioner, can I also offer a comment regarding this conversation? In May, we set an all-time record for home sales of 98. And that was up from 55 a year ago. And this evening in the greater area, including all the outlying areas, there are still over 200 people trying to find a home. They are not bidding up the prices to show off. They are bidding them up to try to have a home. I met with a couple of the lenders. They had stacks of approved parties to buy homes, some of them trying for 2 years. I had a call from a gentleman who said, "Oh, the bottom's falling out of it. Sales are down 9% in the Twin Cities." And I said, I have heard that also. But that's 9% of a very, very big number. We're dealing with the numbers here. I think we're in a very positive area. I think the demand is still unequal tonight. But here's the scary thing. Federal government is talking about raising rates. The bankers, at least some of them told me, at 5%, they could still be competitive. But what if we go to 7 or 9? That could present challenges. But for the message tonight, it couldn't have been more positive than me. You know, one thing that happened is there were a few people, for a number of reasons, that did move from Winona, some job related, a number of other things. Their homes became available at the end of May, and there were numerous people that were trying to buy them. So we know we have employment here, we have education here. We don't have the homes that we need for the people in our area. So I appreciate this to share that with you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, has everyone had a chance to review all the information? So then we'll move on to item number 5, which will be to act on the assessor's consent change list. And I guess the options would be approve, deny, or modify of some sort. So whatever the board wishes to do, that's where we're at on the agenda.
I would move to go ahead and approve the assessor's consent change list.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve the assessor's consent change list as is presented. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll vote then. All those in favor of approving the assessor's consent change list as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so then we'll move on to item number 6, which is to act on property owners' appeals. And so is Mr. Chickanowski the only appeal we have? There's nothing.
There was supposed to be one more potential, but she made it sound like she wasn't gonna, she was up in the air if she was gonna show up or not. And her time slot was 6:45, so it's,
So if they don't come, we don't take.
you can't do anything, yep, don't do anything. So it's really just Mr. Chickanowski. It's a different situation. It's, obviously, it's,
Mike's plea on the sand, it has, in my opinion, I drive that way almost every time I come into Winona. That sand pile and the Corps of Army Engineers have destroyed his property. I mean, the value of it, because there's a huge sand pile. There is, like he said, there is truck traffic, there's train traffic. I mean, he doesn't need the home. I mean, he doesn't live there. It's for his business and everything. But I mean, I know he's paying on his Winona canoe property, he's paying dearly, and on his Homer property. I'd like to see us go down to, at least, I don't know that we can go back to the 444, but we're at, what did you say, 597.4 right now?
Yes.
I'd like to make it 500,000, and I think that's still a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if the core wasn't there and it was still nice, peaceful community neighborhood, it would have great value. But for him to sell it to somebody with the kind of stuff going on there, and as he indicated, the core is looking to make it bigger. They're looking to buy land downriver and make it bigger. And the train was supposed to put in safety gates and all that. Now, I don't know if that's a plus or a minus, because you'd have that to deal, that.
In fairness, so I do see a lot of trains.
Yeah.
It's like I said, in the past,
Everybody deals with trains.
pretty much our sales on the river is we're either on the money or we're low.
Yeah.
So I know this one's a little bit different because ideally you don't want to be next to a sand pit. And Lindsay, when she was out there, she heard all the trucks that were just going by the whole time, even though she couldn't see it, but you could hear the trucks beeping, and there was a lot of truck activity going on that day anyway. So
I think your neighborhood affects the value of your home. I mean, your property.
I guess I thought I heard him ask for another 20,000.
Well, he'd like to go back to the 444, but that was.
Yeah, I don't-
That
I
was
don't know about
19,
that.
that was 2019, so that would have been what paid in 20.
Right, so last year was 575,
In the 2020 tax bill.
Okay, yeah, 2020.
but last year was 575, right?
yes, 575,100 for what he's paying on this year.
Yeah, last year was 532,600 was 2021.
Wait, well, Sandra, do you have the actual numbers? I thought I wrote them down, but
Pull
no.
that up. How did you pull that up?
I went to the Beacon
Oh, okay,
and entered
okay,
his
gotcha.
plot number.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, so Commissioner Meyer, what would you like?
Okay, so in 2019, it was 400.
Assessment was 444,000.
Yep.
2020 was 532,600.
Okay.
2021 was 575,100. And as of today, it's 640,700.
So overall, the rest,
sand wasn't there in 19. The sand wasn't there in 2020. The sand wasn't there, and the sand is there in 2021. Did they start?
I want to say the sand has been there for a number of years in the past, only because I've been
In a very
I've been on a
small-
boat before going past that.
Yeah,
So
very
I,
small scale. I mean, it's since the core, which has been about a year and a half, maybe now, 2 years at the most.
they bought the land in 2018.
Well, they bought it. in
Okay.
18,
Yes.
But they aggressively started
Oh, they-
stockpiling it.
the Army Corps bought it in 2019.
Yes. We bought it from Hemker back.
We don't know how long Mr. Chickanowski has owned it.
He's owned this, as far as I know, as far as long as he built the house that's on there was built in 2000.
Right?
So your starting valuation you're doing for 2023?
Correct.
And so the starting value was 590, was 647?
Yes. And then Lindsay and Perry were out there. They thought 597,400. That's what they dropped it to.
So it is now lower than what it was in 2022 at 597,400.
Yes.
But that's what you had it.
It was 647,700, and then Lindsay
We dropped it.
dropped it to 597,400.
He's never paid on the 597,400.
Correct. Not yet. No, that's for at the moment for 23.
Right, that's for 2023.
In 2022, he's paying on 640,000.
No,
Oh,
22 he's paying 575,100.
Okay, got my ears off. Okay, so there we go.
Again, I like 500,000. I think that's,
I can't do anything with it. I make a motion.
I move to, what is it, revalue? What's the right term?
Would be reassess.
Reassess. I move to reassess the Chickanowski River House Homer property to 500,000 for 2023, correct? I got
Yes,
that right?
yes.
Well, I'll second it. I guess I can, right? Okay, so we'd be in discussion on a motion to reassess the Chicanowski property down to a value of 500,000. Anyone have any discussion on that?
Well, and Mike made the issue, have we had any like sales of that house anywhere along the river? Probably not.
Not next to a sand pit. I know down in Dresbeck, we had about a $900,000 sale,
Yeah.
but that's in a different animal.
Yep, that's a total different house and yeah, set of properties. You know, part of my reasoning going low is to send a signal to the Army Corps and maybe some higher federal legislators that this project is devastating to a community.
We got to remember though, we got to make sure we value what we think you can get it from the open market too.
Yeah, and
It's tough. This is a tough one.
It's lost a lot of its value, you know, because of the activity and the restricted-
potential activity.
Yeah, and the potential activity with increasing more hauling there.
Yeah, I would like to see it closer to the 2021 value of 575. It's already down 100,000 from 697 to 597. He didn't go into any detail, but if it's a business property, he has a room full of lawyers somewhere figuring out how to wiggle around on all that.
My only issue is the property to the left, that Leo Smith property. I don't remember what the top of my head what it's assessed, but that's assessed around 550, 575.
That has no residence on it?
There's a residence on
Oh,
it.
there is a residence on
But
it.
it's not restricted
It's-
by the crossing.
It's not. It doesn't have that. I'm just.
Yeah, he doesn't deal with the sand.
The only difference
Deals
was
with the railroad.
the only difference was he just has his house is slightly older but he's got much more land. And yes, obviously there's some issues with the neighbor next door. So I just want to point that out too with the neighbor, and just not to be too far.
I don't disagree with Commissioner Ward that sending a message to the Corps, but I don't know that this sends a message to the Corps. I mean, I
I'm
would
sending
be
it to
much,
Klobuchar and Smith. is
I think
who
it
I'm
would be
referring
much
to.
more direct if, as Mr. Chickanowski asked us, we send a letter to the Corps, but we don't really have regulatory authority. So, and I think that drops it below the value that the 500,000 puts it below the value back in 2020. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I tend to think more like the 575, which is what the 2021 value was.
John, does the Army Corps still have access to put more sand there or take sand away from Mr. Chickanowski's property, or is this the way it is and his property stays the way it is?
None of the sand is on his property. Both lots are pretty big.
The property is a result of past dredging, isn't it, at one point?
I don't remember the history of how that. I'll be honest, I don't know the whole history of.
Because I've seen from our previous discussions that the DNR can reassert later,
Yeah.
which to me feels like a real encumbrance to the property. If that's why I'm asking.
I see what you're.
I thought you might have that answer, that the
Well,
DNR
what
could
is-
say, oh, we're dredging there, we're gonna.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So history, when Mr. Hemper owned it, and he came to the planning commission several times and tried to do some things with it. So prior to the Corps, it was privately owned, but it was built up by dredge materials. I don't know how big it was. Again, we'd have to go way back in the records, but that's what Mr. Hemper did. He stockpiled much smaller amounts of sand there because he had a dredging contract on the river. But there again, he wanted to build something, and I don't ever remember permitting Mr. Chickanowski's house. I don't know when that got built, but
2000.
Okay. So
Yeah, this has the creation date as 1997. So
Okay.
he either bought the land then and then built his house 3 years
And I
later.
don't remember having to
Yeah.
do a conditional use permit or anything for that house, but Mr. Hemker wanted to, and the planning commission denied it at the time. And then he never pursued it again. And that's why I was wondering about Mr. Stanton, because I know he was trying to build something along the river. But the Corps is looking at buying, as he said, Mike said, the next property, and they will be mitigating wetlands to put their sand in there, but it will be to the south, downriver side. But the access, unless they change access, will still all come, even with a bigger pile of sand, will still all come right out Mike's, share. It's pretty much a shared driveway.
Yeah,
think-
it's technically their driveway, and he's got to go through it to get to his property.
Yeah, so it is a shared.
Shared, but
In and
it's
out.
more, but
It's
it's
how you get on the island, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's only
because you have to go through you have to go through the Army's property
Property.
technically to get there.
Yeah.
Not a big road, but you do have to go through the property to
Yep.
get there.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to reduce or to revalue the Chickanowski property to $500,000. There's been discussion to change that number, but without an amendment. Unless there's further discussion, I'll call for a vote. It'll either pass or fail, and then we can adopt it or come up with a different plan. So is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote to reduce and revalue the Chickanowski property to $500,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Hi. Hey,
Okay, so the motion fails.
I would move to reduce the value to 575, 100, which is what it was in 2021.
I'd second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to reduce and revalue the Chickanowski property of $575,100. Is there any discussion on that motion?
He has paid taxes on that amount, because that 575, 100 was the value in 2021. So that's what he paid on it.
Pay
this-
22. Yes.
He paid for 2022.
Yes.
But that's almost from 2020, it was 532.6. So that's still a significant increase in property that to me has been devalued because of the core project.
I think the 2021 value is in line with a reasonable amount. And it comes kind of in between the 2020 and the 2022.
Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote to reduce and revalue the Chickanowski property to $575,100. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
I didn't hear you.
I thought I saw her lips move
I didn't hear her.
under the eye.
I'll say aye,
On the high.
on 575, 100.
All right.
I'm still a little torn, so.
At the least, I can definitely do some reviewing on this. And not only just his property, but the ones close to it too.
Mhm.
So I can promise you at the very least this next year, I can at least find out what more the Army Corps is going to do, and I can see how it's going to do a closer look.
See what encumbrances he really has to deal with.
Yep, I could, not just his, but the other ones too.
How many other houses in Winona County have to get permission to cross the railroad tracks to get into their property and deal with the Corps of Army Engineers? Then my intent, Commissioner Meyer, was to advise Senators Klobuchar and Smith, because I've been in contact with them about this whole Homer project, that this is devastating to community members. That the Corps prides himself on being a beneficial organization, and that their community acknowledged community. Well, tomorrow night they will have an open house, and if you have a chance, And Mike has worked with them long and hard to get them to take their sand to places that they have for it. And
I
they
would
just,
say he probably has more
Don't-
influence than
yeah.
we do.
they just don't want to do it. But Klobuchar and Smith, they will respond at some point to emails and letters.
I think, if we reach the point where we want to send a letter to the Army Corps, we can CC the senators and make. But otherwise, I think we have to be fair about about the values and about the taxes.
Well, the Corps doesn't pay taxes. And then,
Correct.
are we collecting any taxes where they hauled the sand on that quarry up the hill? Is
It-
that paying
I
property
think
taxes?
that's still owned by Matthew Construction, I
Yeah,
believe. No, they still have to pay that.
Okay, so now that property, it was sitting idle. And now they're stockpiling sand on it and getting paid very well from the Corps of Army Engineers to stockpile it. Have you looked at that property?
We already have, I know we already has as industrial. We basically taxed them. This is off the top of my head, but all the Matthew Construction properties, we tend to, they be on the industrial classification, which has a higher tax rate.
Okay, all right. So we can get some benefit out of it.
But I know Matthew's been selling off a bunch of their properties too.
Sure.
Well, that's all the items that are on this agenda. Assessor Conway, is there anything further that we should be addressing tonight before we would move on to adjournment?
No, just obviously, if you got any questions for our office, always willing to help. Just got any questions, don't hesitate to call us.
I haven't heard much from my constituents, and in your case, that's good news.
Especially, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
I heard from my husband, and I also heard from a senior citizen. Not the same, but.
My house, we just don't even like to open those letters. I mean, it's not-
Item 7 is to adjourn. Is
So
there a
move.
I'll second.
motion from Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to adjourn? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All the same sign. Motion carries.
I
Thank you,
held up this paper, I'm sorry. I didn't